All right, let's jump right in. For decades, if you went to business school, you were taught a very specific set of rules for taking a company global. But here's the thing you need to know. That playbook, the one built on things like physical assets and stable borders, it's not just outdated, it's dangerously obsolete. Following it today is like trying to navigate with a paper map from 1995 in a world of self-driving cars. It just doesn't work. And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? The game used to be about tangible stuff. Factories, supply chains, things you could touch. Success was all about market economics. But today, the most valuable assets are completely intangible. We're talking data, algorithms, and platform control. The new battlegrounds aren't just physical borders anymore. They're digital borders, governed by this rising force we're going to call digital sovereignty. I mean, just think about it. TikTok's algorithm is seen as a national strategic asset for China. That's the new reality we're dealing with. So you're probably wondering, why is that old playbook so broken? Well, it's because the very theories it was built on, the legendary frameworks like Porter's diamond or Dunning's OLI paradigm, they just weren't designed for the world we live in right now. They have no way to account for forces like state-sponsored AI or the incredible power of these massive global digital platforms. And the stakes here? I mean, they couldn't be higher. We are talking about a global trade ecosystem that's worth over $35 trillion. In a market this huge, using an outdated map isn't just a small mistake. It's a complete recipe for disaster. Okay, this slide really gets to the heart of the problem. These classic theories were, brilliant for their time, but today they have massive blind spots. Dunning's theory, it was all about owning physical things, like factories. It has no way to value an asset like an algorithm that gets smarter with every user. Porter's model looked at a country's existing advantages, but it can't explain how a country can literally build a huge new advantage from nothing through massive state investments in AI. And none of these theories could have predicted that digital platforms would solve old problems, like a lack of trust, while creating powerful new dependencies at the same time. So what's replaced those old physical battlegrounds? Well, that brings us right to the new digital battleground. Three big forces are rewriting all the rules: the power of data, the dominance of platforms, and, you guessed it, the rise of digital borders. The most critical concept to get your head around here is digital sovereignty. And the best way to think of it is like this. Just like countries have physical borders with customs agents, they're now building digital borders with digital customs. They're taking control over their data, their AI, their entire digital infrastructure, all to serve their own national interests. And look, this is not just some theory. Check out the money that's flowing into this. Countries are actively building their digital sovereignty as we speak. China has put over $52 billion into its sovereign AI goals. Brazil's not far behind with a $23 billion plan. This is the new industrial policy for the 21st century, plain and simple. Now, in this new world, digital platforms seem like the perfect tool, right? They can fill what we call institutional voids, those gaps in a country's market infrastructure. Think about how Uber created a system of trust with ratings where there wasn't one before. But here's the paradox. While these platforms fill old voids, they create brand new ones. They create massive dependency on their systems, they concentrate power, and they bring in new risks like algorithmic bias. And all this leads to a new, really critical kind of political risk that targets a company's most valuable assets. It's called data expropriation risk. Basically, it's the danger that a country, through laws that force data to be stored locally, will pretty much nationalize your data by stopping you from using it across your global network. Your data gets trapped behind their new digital border. And this leads to the one crucial question that every single global business leader needs to be asking themselves right now. If data is your most valuable asset, how are you protecting it from being digitally nationalized? Because the old risk models for physical stuff, they won't help you here. So if the old map is useless, what's the new one? Where's the GPS for this new world? Well, this is where a new framework comes in. It's called the Digital Sovereignty Governance Theory, or DSGT for short. It's really designed to be a modern playbook for this crazy new territory. The whole theory really boils down to mastering the alignment between three interconnected systems. First, you've got your own company's digital skills, your AI, your platform. Second, there's the host country's digital sovereignty goals. And third, there's the whole geopolitical environment. So, for example, a US cloud company wanting to operate in India needs more than just great tech. It has to deal with India's data laws and the complicated political relationship between the US and India. Success is all about keeping these three things in sync. Okay, so that's the theory, but let's get practical. How do we turn this into a playbook you can actually use? What are the new rules for winning? Well, it comes down to three critical keys to success. The first key is a big one. You have to stop thinking just about markets and start thinking about sovereignty and geopolitics. It's a huge mental shift from just asking, is there a market here, to asking, does our strategy actually align with this nation's digital destiny? So what does that mean in practice? It means you have to treat the political alignment between your home country and the host country as a major factor. It means you have to assess the risk of your data getting trapped just as seriously as you would the risk of a factory being seized. And it means you have to understand that in some places, state-backed competitors might create a kind of sovereign ceiling, an invisible barrier on how much you're actually allowed to grow. All right, the second key is a bit counterintuitive. For years, the advice was to find the most stable, most developed emerging markets, the places that look the most like home. The new playbook says that's exactly where the competition is the toughest. Instead, you need to look for the institutional void sweet spot. And this chart shows you exactly why. In markets with very few problems, low voids, the competition is just brutal. But in markets with way too many problems, high voids, the risks of even operating are just too great. The real opportunity, that sweet spot, is in the middle. Markets with moderate voids, where your company can step in and create incredible value by filling those gaps with your technology. And the third key is all about handling that double-edged sword of platforms we talked about. The challenge is to use their amazing power to enter markets and skill up, while at the same time making sure you don't fall into the trap of becoming completely dependent on them. The theory itself has this great line that just nails it. It says that AI and platforms make it cheaper to do business, which is awesome, but it creates a new vulnerability, platform dependency. Becoming too reliant on one platform, whether it's your cloud provider or a social network, is a huge modern business risk that gives all the power to the platform owner. So, let's pull all this together. How do you take these big ideas from theory and actually turn them into a working strategy for your business? Well, the great thing is, these new, complex factors aren't just fuzzy, abstract ideas. You can actually measure them. You can track geopolitical alignment by seeing how countries vote in the UN. You can measure digital sovereignty by looking at their data laws. And you can quantify those institutional voids by seeing how many days it takes to enforce a contract. It's a data-driven approach for a totally new reality. If you remember just one thing from this whole explainer, please make it this. For decades, the mantra in business was product-market fit. Today, that is not enough. The ultimate key to global success is achieving product sovereignty fit. It's all about the deep alignment of your digital strategy with a nation's digital ambitions. And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. As more and more countries build these digital walls and prioritize their own digital champions, you have to ask yourself, is the era of the truly borderless global company actually coming to an end? And if so, what's going to take its place?